Muy buenas, gente de la Torre de Babel que está con nosotros en este nuevo episodio para hablar, ya saben, siempre de fútbol, de los idiomas y de cualquier cosa que ustedes necesiten que nosotros hablemos. Y el día de hoy, justamente estas dos disciplinas se juntan. ¿Por qué? Porque nuestro invitado es alguien muy especial y que viajó desde muy lejos para estar aquí con nosotros en nuestro bello país, que se enamoró de México, que se está enamorando de México y que en el transcurso de su estadía ha colaborado con varios equipos de la Liga MX, de nuestra amada Liga MX. Y puedo decir sin temor a equivocarme que estoy enfrente de el inglés más mexicano que puede haber. Nuestro invitado de hoy es Sam. Mucho gusto. Un aplauso.
Gracias, gracias.
Okay, Sam, first a little bit in English. I have made an introduction about you, but do you mind adding something to what I have said, or is it okay?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So basically, like I say, you pretty much said everything that is to be said. But no, I make content online about Mexican football. Some of it is about the league itself and talking about what is happening. The other half is kind of sharing my own personal experiences, trying to visit every stadium in Liga MX. So yeah, I try to show people from around the world what it's like to go to games here in Mexico and also to show people what is actually happening in Mexican football.
Fantastic. And not just me, but any other people and friends that I have met that also watch your content are really grateful for that. So thanks a lot. But we have to go back to the beginning. How was this idea, this project about coming to our continent, to Mexico and to Latin America, and to start talking about football? How was this idea of this new project?
Yeah, it's kind of been a bit of a long journey, really, because I came to Mexico for the first time 3 years ago.
Mhm.
And the reason I came to Mexico initially was to travel and was to kind of experience different places. Because before being in Mexico, I was traveling around Europe and just having fun, really. And then I kind of came here and I lived with a Mexican family. I learned Spanish, and now I have a Mexican girlfriend. So I've always loved football. So I said, okay, why didn't I try and do something with Mexican football? Because even from the very first day I came to Mexico, I went to a game. I went to watch America against Monterrey at the Azteca,
Okay.
and even at that point, I didn't have any plans to make videos or anything. It was only kind of recently that I said, "Oh, it'd be really cool to kind of show people what it's like to go to a game, and to kind of get more involved in Mexican football." And so it's kind of just evolved over the last kind of couple of years. But in terms of the videos I make have kind of come around really since November last year. The first vlog I made going to a game, like a first real proper vlog, was when I went to Torreon, to Santos
Yeah,
Laguna. Oh
Santos
no, I
Laguna.
went to Tigres, actually.
Oh,
Tigres
Tigres,
first.
actually.
But Santos Laguna was the day after. So the
Yeah,
second
yeah.
one was actually Santos Laguna. The first one was Tigres. And yeah, from there, a lot of people seem to really like it, and yeah, it means a lot to me.
Fantastic. So you didn't just fell for football, you also felt for Mexican women. So you have a Mexican girlfriend. That is fantastic. Almost all the people from Europe or from another countries I know said that one of the weaknesses of those guys are are women. So yes, it's okay.
Yeah.
Um, so you said your first proper blog was with Tigres. I think it's in El Volcán in the
Yeah.
Estadio Universitario. So it was good.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
also just for saying a little bit, I am actually in a Monterrey. So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I am in the in close to that stadium.
Oh, no.
Just before talking properly about football itself, um, you said you came here just to travel in the beginning, and then you fall for Mexican football and all of that.
Mhm.
Have you went to other countries here in Latin America?
I've been to the only other one I've been to is Colombia.
Mm,
I
fantastic.
went there a while ago.
And you also had a football experience there in a Colombia?
Yeah, I went to watch two games. I went to watch Atlético Nacional,
Hmm.
and well, actually, the first game was just Atlético Nacional, and I forgot who they played against. My Colombian football knowledge isn't the greatest.
No, it's okay.
Um,
It's a lot.
but
It's like
then
Deportivo Cali, I don't know, Atlético Bucaramanga, I
yeah,
know some of it.
no, it was it was a smaller team. I did make a
Achira,
video
I
about
don't
it a long time
know,
ago,
something like that.
but I then went to another game, which was then the big derby of
Yeah.
Medellin between
Hmm.
Nacional and Deportivo. So
Hmm. This is
it was a big rivalry. So yeah,
fantastic.
I did get to two games there, but I've not been anywhere else yet.
Okay. Yet. Um, and just before talking about proper football, did you are right now, I think, in Ciudad de Mexico, if I'm not wrong.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, um, what are the things about Mexico, about this country that outside of football that make you stay in here, at least for now? And
Mm.
what were the things that you really liked about our country the first or the second time you went here?
Yeah. So when I first came here, like I say, I lived with a Mexican family, and like they made me feel very welcome. They made me feel like one of their children, which
Mhm.
was incredible. And it kind of showed the hospitality, like just how welcoming people are. So that kind of, and I always say, to be honest, if I didn't live with that Mexican family when I first arrived, I don't know if I'd still be in Mexico, because a lot of people when they come to Mexico, like from other countries, they don't really. I mean, they do interact with the culture and the people, but not in the same way as like living with them. Like it's not very
Yeah.
normal to do that. But by doing that, I kind of had like a fast track way of learning about Mexican culture and the way of life here. And I think that I probably settled into Mexican life because of that. And then obviously like the things like the weather, the food,
Yeah.
I can't complain with those things. But yeah, really kind of just from the people that I've met, it's kind of helped me adjust to life in Mexico because it is very different to life in the UK.
Yeah, I was in the UK the last year for a exchange, and I had to
Hmm.
say I really loved the experience, the atmosphere in food, all of that.
Yeah,
But I agree with you. The food is not that compared to Mexico, if I can say
it's just different.
that.
It's just
Yeah,
very,
yeah,
very
definitely.
different.
Yeah,
But yeah.
and we talk about Europe, about the UK. I don't know really if the Liga MX is really watched in Europe. What is the visibility of our league there in Europe?
Um, I would say it's very similar to the MLS in the sense that
Right.
people follow it, but probably not that closely.
Yeah.
One reason is because of the time difference. When
Yeah.
games in Mexico are being played, everyone is sleeping. But also, like, I think people in the UK or in Europe probably know about the big moments, like Gignac last week. He's about to leave Tigres, and it then made global news, like the reception he received in El Volcan,
Yeah.
or maybe when a team wins like a league title, or players like James Rodriguez moved to Mexico.
Mhm.
When big moments are happening in Mexico, the world is, or at least in Europe, it's paying attention. But in terms of like the day-to-day things that are happening in Mexican football, I wouldn't say people are following it so closely, and it's similar to the MLS.
Right. And also, now that you mentioned the MLS here in Mexico, I bet you know it, but we have like a huge rivalry between us and the MLS because
Yeah.
all the cultural things, all the social atmosphere, but
Hmm.
also we fight a lot in the continental competitions, like the Champions League from Europe is the Conca
Hmm.
Champions here in
Yeah,
North and Central America.
sure.
Also, Also, do you follow the CONCACHAMPIONS tournament or not?
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually going to Toluca on Wednesday to watch them against LAFC.
To look against LAFC, I think. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
LAFC. They lost 2-1 the first leg,
Mhm.
but in the Nemesio 10, El Infierno is going to be tough for
Yeah.
the LFC.
Mhm.
Um, Also, now that we mentioned the MLS and Mexico, we don't forget that you come from England, and the English football, more precisely, the Premier League is probably the best league in the world. Not just because of the actual level of the teams, but also because of the financial terms of the Premier League, of the TV rights all around the world, and
Mhm.
because of the performance of English clubs in the Champions League. If you have to mention some similarities or differences between English football and Mexican football, what would that be?
Hmm. I would say so. Starting as a tough one. Starting with the similarities, because I do try to think about this sometimes. I mean, one of the reasons why I like Mexican football is because it is really, really different to football in the UK.
Yeah.
But if I start with the similarities, because that's probably the hardest part, I would say the similarities are probably the fans, and
Mm.
I mean it's in like. I've heard a few people say this, and I probably wouldn't disagree. Some people say that the most passionate football fans in the world are British people, Mexican people, and Argentinian people. Now,
Yeah.
I've not been to Argentina, so I can't say that, but I can say that in the UK, everything's about football.
Yeah.
Everything. Like you go to some cities in particular. I know in Mexico, people love Sunderland, and it's a good
Yep.
example in Sunderland, where if you've seen the documentary about Sunderland, you know that everything is about the football team.
Yeah.
And in Mexico, it's very similar. I think fans here are. They live for the team, they die for the team. Whether they're winning, whether they're losing, everyone is supporting the team. And I think it's similar in the UK. What I do think is different, I think people in Mexico care more about the big teams than they do in England.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, like you go anywhere in Mexico, you will find America fans, Chivas fans, maybe even Pumas, Cruz Azul. You will find fans of the big teams, and not so much of maybe like the smaller teams. Like I went to Aguascalientes a few weeks
Mhm.
ago. I made a vlog.
Necaxa. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have a video coming out tonight. But in being in that stadium, I was talking to people who work there, and they said, "Oh, it's difficult because we only moved to Aguascalientes 20 years ago, and people
Yeah.
still here they like, the other teams. Like they on that day they played against Tigres, so there
Yeah.
was a lot of fans of Tigres, and they said, oh, a lot of the fans for Tigres they live in Aguascalientes, but in England it happens. It can, people support Chelsea, Man United, Liverpool. Like my dad's a Liverpool fan, but we don't live in Liverpool but it's not as common. I don't think it's as common. I would say another difference between Mexican football and English football is obviously the things like relegations and promotions.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have that in Mexico. Unfortunately, we
Yeah.
don't have that.
Yeah, I
Um,
will want to ask you something about that
mhm.
later. But
Yeah,
also just to add something at what you said about Necaxa. The team used to play in Ciudad de Mexico
yeah, they played here.
in Estadio Azteca, and then they moved because all of that stuff. And also, I have to mention that here in Mexico, we really like our football. We really like also our how do you say it? Our playoffs, uh,
Hmm.
the liguilla. Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
so different from the normal league competition that the first place wins at the end of the year. But here it's the first until the eighth team. They enter to a completely new tournament and they have to fight against each other to the title. The first time you arrived to Mexico and you knew this new rule of the competition, what were your first thoughts about these playoffs, about this new rule that is
Yeah.
not common in Europe.
Mhm. Yeah. I think I like it. The thing that I probably guess I don't love is the fact that it's divided into the apertura and clausura for
Yeah.
me, because I just think like you then have the Liguilla, it's
Mhm.
too often. I think it's better to have one big Liguilla at the end of the season,
All right.
and then whoever wins that is then the champion. I guess I don't love that you have two winners in the season. Like to me,
Yeah.
that being from the UK just doesn't feel right. But in saying that, I've been to games in the Liguilla and I've loved it. I really like the intensity. The fans are crazy. So there are things that I do like with it. It's just I think it happens too often.
Yeah. We will send that comments to Mikel Arriola, the owner of the league. We will send that comments because we
Yeah.
also have a little bit of that thoughts. Also, another thing, just before passing to the next topic, what are your thoughts about relegation and no relegation here in Mexico? Because there is something that, at least for us Mexicans, we really hate it. We hate a lot that the worst team in the first division and the best team in the second division can't switch places because
Yeah.
we really like the sportive competition and not that much the money needs of
Mm.
of the owner. So the question is, what are your thoughts about the relegation situation here in Liga MX?
I think, to be honest, I think it's a shame. I think it's a real shame. Like some of the best moments, like again from the UK, some of the big best moments from the UK, like football history, is from promotions and relegations. The
Yeah,
final day of the season, teams, doing everything to try and survive. We look at Tottenham at the moment, who
yeah.
on paper should never ever be relegated, but are in a situation that they seriously could do. You then have
Also, I
teams
think
like
it was yesterday or 2 days ago that Ipswich Town were I promoted to the Premier League again.
unfortunately that was today. Unfortunately
Oh,
that
yeah,
was yesterday. I
yeah.
say unfortunately because they're the big rivals of my local
Yeah,
team.
yeah, yeah. Of Norwich City, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Norwich.
So yeah,
Unfortunately.
unfortunately, they did get promoted today, but look, Norwich have been promoted a lot of times to the Premier League, so I don't mind. But yeah, I think with promotions and relegations, it gives teams hope. The idea that you can go from the very lowest league to the top league, um, you can play against anybody. Like I think that's kind of the beauty of football, and I think that's something that it's missing in Mexico, and it's a big shame at the moment.
Yeah. And just to finish with this part of the interview, um, if you were like the CEO or the leader of the Liga MX, which changes, what things would you do? What things would you change to to make the league better, to make it more affordable, to make it that it has more visibility in Europe
Yep.
or in other countries. What would be your changes to make the league better?
Oof. I think I would start by changing the promotions and relegations. It's
Right.
an obvious answer,
Yeah, yeah,
but
it's an obvious one.
I think it's essential. Like you have so many big teams in the expansion
Yeah, yeah,
that that I always say in any league in any world in any country, sorry, the teams at the bottom of the league are no better than the teams at the top of the second division. It's the same in England, it's the same in Germany, Spain, every league in the world. That the teams at the top in the second division are the same level as the teams at the bottom of the first division. Other than that, I would like to see Mexican teams back in the Libertadores, to be honest.
exactly. That was something. Yeah.
I think I don't love the idea of the Leagues Cup. It's something that interests me, like from a place of curiosity, but it doesn't interest me in terms of excitement. I think
Yeah,
it's a tournament that heavily favors MLS teams because they struggle to win the CONCACAF Champions Cup. So yeah, bringing back the Libertadores, the Sudamericana, I think those are really, really key. I think interest in Mexican football, not just from a foreign perspective, but from a local perspective, has probably died a little bit since
yeah,
Mexican teams have left Libertadores CONMEBOL.
yeah,
Um, I think they're the two big things that I would like to see, really. And to be honest, I would like to see more kind of investment in like the academies of teams in Mexico because like it's a massive country, a big football country. And there's so many great players in Mexico, but they just don't have the right support to really make it as, a high level player. And whether that's, allowing them to leave to go to Europe earlier or actually just investing in the academies and like the quality of football. Like it's a massive country. The teams in Mexico have enough money to improve the facilities and improve the support for their young players. And I think that's personally something that I would love to see is just kind of more support for young players. And I mean, with more support for young players, it's going to improve the national team as well. You're then making better players who are going to come into the national team who are then going to compete better in international competitions. So that's another one that I would probably include.
yeah. So if we have to make a list, we say that first of all the relegation, second Mexico back in CONMEBOL with a Copa
Uh-huh.
Libertadores and Copa Sudamericana,
Yeah,
and then the investment in the academies because I think also there is a huge number of foreigners in the Premier League, like from Argentina, from Brazil,
yeah,
etc. And I think that is something good, but we also need to look in our local projects. So
yeah.
that are some really good advices, and I hope in the future that Mexico come back to CONMEBOL, and then we have to move to the next part, and by this. If you don't mind, we can switch now to español un poco.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
Ok. Para los que no sepan, que pues creo que lo van a saber ahora, aquí mi compadre habla español fluidamente y la pregunta que le quiero hacer es, ¿cómo aprendiste español? ¿Cómo fue el aprendizaje? ¿Tú antes de venir a México ya lo hablabas o lo aprendiste aquí?
Pues no hable español cuando llegue aquí, solo que yo viví con una familia mexicana
Sí, sí.
y yo aprendí con ellos y yo estudié en la Universidad de UNAM español
Ah,
por
ok.
3 meses, 2 o 3 meses, cada día por 3 horas. Es muy intensivo. Pero sí, sí, yo estudié mucho cuando llegué aquí porque es muy importante. Si en caso que quiero vivir aquí en México con los mexicanos, es muy importante que yo aprendo la lengua, la idioma de la gente. Y sí, estaba así. Pero antes de llegue aquí, no hable nada en español.
Ok. Y bueno, en general, al menos para mí que pues tengo la capacidad de poder haber viajado a Inglaterra y a otros países,
Ujú.
me he percatado de que la mayoría de las personas en Inglaterra, Estados Unidos y los demás países en donde se habla inglés, por lo general, son muy pocas las personas que aprenden otro idioma, español,
Ujú.
francés, no sé, alemán,
Sí.
etcétera.
Ujú.
Em, tú como pues vienes de allá, eres de Inglaterra, ¿qué tan común o qué tan poco común es que una persona de Inglaterra hable otro idioma, como español o francés o el que sea?
No es tan común porque, según yo, es un problema con los sistemas de la escuela en Inglaterra, porque aprendemos otros idiomas, pero no en tan nivel muy grande, si
Ujú.
me entiendes.
Sí, sí, claro.
No es tan grande como la nivel. Entonces, cuando llegamos a otros países, la verdad es que no entendimos nada. Es como las cosas que estudiamos en la escuela es diferente que la realidad.
Ok.
Por eso es difícil. Cuando lleguemos a otros países y queremos hablar con la gente, es como hay, hay problemas para nosotros. Entonces sí, no es tan común como no hay nadie en mi familia que habla otra lengua, solo yo, como mi hermana, mi mamá, papá, nadie. Y mis amigos también. Sí hablan como alemán, pero no es un nivel tan alto. Pero sí, la verdad es que no es común en Inglaterra.
Ok. Ok, y ya para finalizar con el tema de los idiomas, que pues por ejemplo yo como soy mexicano, soy hablante nativo de este español y la verdad puedo decir que tú lo hablas muy bien, así que pues felicidades por eso, la verdad.
Gracias.
Pues siento como dijiste, ¿no? Que al aprender la lengua también, pues tienes la capacidad de, pues, formar más amistades, de pues, estar más metido en la cultura. Entonces, yo creo que, pues, ya estás muy metido en la cultura, entonces, muy bien por eso. Felicitaciones. Y
Gracias.
solo para finalizar, am, claro, tú hablas inglés y español. ¿Hay alguna otra lengua que te gustaría aprender en el futuro o que tengas algún deseo de aprender?
Yo hablo un poco de italiano porque yo
Ok.
estudié en la universidad, pero mientras que estoy aquí en México ya olvidé mucho, pero tengo planes de aprender de nuevo porque es un idioma similar de español y hay muchas palabras similares y sí es el plan en el futuro, pero ahora lo dijo que solo inglés y español.
Ok, perfecto. Y bueno, esta es una pregunta extra que pues, se me viene a la mente. Para ti, ¿cuál es el idioma más bonito o el que más te gusta en general?
¿Entre inglés y español o en el mundo?
Entre todos los que pues, conoces o los que te gustaría aprender o todos en general.
Hmm, mm, la verdad, me gusta mucho español.
Ok,
Porque, no sé, es como sueño muy, muy bonito, pero italiano también.
sí,
Italiano, sí, sí, creo que español e italiano son los dos más bonitos en el mundo.
ok. Ok, y bueno, tu novia puede dar fe y legalidad de eso, porque bueno, te quedaste con ella. Y pues creo que también ella también te enseñó, ¿no? A aprender español. Bueno,
Mm,
está bastante bien. Bueno, ya platicamos sobre las cosas que te hicieron quedarte en México, sobre tu experiencia en
ujú.
nuestro país, cómo llegaste y te acoge una familia mexicana y luego el tema del fútbol, todo eso, ¿no? Pero bueno, no todo puede ser color de rosa. ¿Hay algunas cosas que no te gusten de México?
Mm, hmm. Uf, no, me gusta.
A ver,
Tal
créeme que
vez.
nosotros también tenemos muchas cosas que pues, no nos gustan de México, entonces tú lo puedes decir sin ningún problema.
Ajá. Sí, puedo decir que no me gusta como el transporte entre
Ok,
las ciudades porque obviamente yo conozco muchas ciudades en México, pero a
ujú,
veces es difícil para llegar
sí,
a esta ciudad como y cuando fui a Necaxa estaba difícil como pues sí, yo tenía la oportunidad de volar en un vuelo, pero es muy caro. Y es un problema en México que, pues, la distancia es muy grande, ya entiendo,
sí,
pero también es caro. Am, y la otra opción es en autobús, pero es 6, 7 horas, es
es
como,
mucho
no,
tiempo.
no, no quiero hacerlo. Y sí, para mí es como el transporte entre los lugares en México.
Ok. El tema de la comida, que pues creo que pues, evidentemente ya nos dijiste, ¿no? Que la comida entre el Reino Unido y México es
Ujú.
pues diferente, ¿no? Entonces está perfecto. ¿Cuál es tu comida favorita aquí en México?
La verdad es que lo dijo que mi opinión cambia cada día. Ahora me gusta mucho quesadilla. Quesadilla es
La
mi
que sabes.
favorito ahora.
Ok, perfecto, la que se firmó. Bueno, es que, bueno, es dato
Pero,
curioso de que en mi familia de que le hacemos mucha burla a la que es mi
ah,
abuela,
sí.
pero bueno, está bien. Ok, ok, perfecto.
Pero,
Sí,
sí, sí,
no,
sí.
no pasa nada. Tus tacos favoritos, porque los tacos, claro, riquísimo. Tus
Ujú.
tipos de tacos favoritos.
Sí, es como el más popular tacos de pastor, pero con piña. Con piña es muy importante.
Ok, eso es algo que creo que diría alguien que viene de fuera, un extranjero, porque a nosotros
Ajá.
no nos gusta mucho la piña, pero no, no, bien, está
Ah.
bien. No, no, sí, perfecto, está bien. Ok. Am, ya hablamos de la comida, ya hablamos de la gente, ya hablamos del clima. Ah, bueno, eso es lo que iba a preguntar sobre la gente, porque en México tenemos bueno, el estereotipo o la perspectiva de que las personas en Europa y más que nada en países como Inglaterra son un poco fríos, un poco secos, un poco
Ajá.
más reservados con su cultura y todo eso. Tú que has vivido en los dos países y que conoces a gente tanto de Reino Unido como de México,
Mm.
¿cómo calificarías a las personas mexicanas y a las del Reino Unido? ¿Son más frías, más reservadas, más abiertas, más cálidas? ¿Cuál crees que es la diferencia?
Mm, pues sí, la gente en México son más abiertos. Y la verdad es que en Inglaterra y otros países europeos son más fríos. Sí, está bien para decirlo así. Sí, creo que en Inglaterra necesita más tiempo para conocer a la gente. Es como en la primera vez, en el primer momento, sí son fríos. Sí, y aún para mí son fríos, pero con más tiempo. Y cuando vives por más tiempo allá en Inglaterra, otros países así, son más abiertos con más tiempo. Con más tiempo son más abiertos. Pero en México es como en la primera vez, es que quieres una chela, quieres algo, en caso que tienes problema, te puedo ayudar. Es como, sí, la gente en México son más abiertos, sí, 100%.
Ok, es como más rápida esa convivencia, ¿no? Es la confianza, se agarra
Ajá,
mucho más rápido, ¿no?
exacto. Ajá.
Ok. Ya bueno, para pues pasar a la siguiente etapa. En Inglaterra, bueno, más que nada en la Premier League, Italia, en el fútbol europeo, la verdad es que el fútbol hoy en día, el fútbol europeo es muy físico, es muy táctico, ha ido pues, evolucionando con el tiempo y con la nueva camada de entrenadores como por ejemplo Pep Guardiola, Mikel Arteta,
Ajá.
¿no? En el caso también de Luis Enrique, Klopp, etcétera. Y bueno, en Latinoamérica y en nuestro caso en México, nuestro fútbol, si bien sabemos que pues no está al nivel del fútbol europeo, también tiene algunas cosas similares y diferentes. Y yo te quiero preguntar sobre el estilo de juego. Am, el estilo de juego en Inglaterra sabemos que, como te digo, físico, táctico y tal. ¿Tú cómo describirías el estilo de fútbol o el estilo de juego aquí en México?
Hmm. El estilo de fútbol en México,
Ujú.
según yo, es más lento, por cierto, es más lento,
Ok.
pero hay mucha acción, hay mucha trama. Am, Creo que sí, no es tan físico en México, es más... es difícil para explicar. O para decir, sí, es más lento, es más como el partido es más en el piso, si me
Ah, ok.
entiendes, es más en el
Sí, sí, que
piso.
no hay muchas jugadas en el aire.
Ajá,
Ok.
exacto. Sí, ajá, es
Ah,
como, hay más, am,
hay más
como la,
jugadas que no son a balón parado, quieres decir, ¿no? Que no son a
ajá,
balón parado. Por ejemplo, el córner o el tiro
ujú,
libre, tal,
sí, sí, sí,
es más como un
ajá,
open play, ¿no? Podemos decirlo así.
ajá. Sí, es como hay más tiempo para pensar qué quieres hacer. Como los jugadores tienen mucho tiempo para pensar qué quieren hacer. Sí, hay muchos goles cuando la defensa no están pensando, si
Ok,
me
ok, ok,
entiendes.
ok. Sí, sí, sí.
Pero creo que en Inglaterra están pensando en cada momento, en cada segundo del partido, pero hay momentos en México cuando no están pensando y hay errores, hay problemas en el juego para el equipo. Y pues sí, creo que es la diferencia más obvio
Mm,
entre los dos ligas.
ok.